My guest is in the studio. So he was born in Albany in Western Australia, but he lives in Beaconsfield and he works in Fremantle. He specialises in franchising, corporate law, contracts, wills and estate planning. He obtained his law degree, Master of Business Administration and Master of Taxation from UWA and a Bachelor of Business from Curtin University. He worked for over 36 years, large and small accounting and law firms. Wow, he's very well qualified, as well as a period of 7 years as Managing and Legal Director of Muzbuzz Franchising drive-through stores throughout Western Australia. He's currently Director of ASX-listed public company Global Health Limited, which provides a range of software to hospitals and medical practices. He's previously held roles as a member of the Racing Penalties Appeals Tribunal and Chairman of the Commercial Tribunal of WA, which jurisdiction includes retail tenancies and consumer credit. He's also been a tutor and lecturer in law and ethics for both college students and articled law clerks. He's provided pro bono legal advice at the Citizens Advice Bureau in Fremantle and Perth, and recently served on the Elder Law Committee of the Law Society of WA. He's currently a member of the Commercial Law Committee of the Law Society. Previously served as a board member on a range of non-for-profit organisations. Don't hold this against him, but he's a member of Dockers since inception, and he's also a member of South Fremantle Sailing Club. His legal practice is a member of the Fremantle Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the studio, Stephen Pynt.
Thanks for that introduction, Mary-Lucille.
That was there's a lot there.
Yes, I've been around a while, but good afternoon or good morning to listeners. And yes, I'm here not so much as a lawyer, but as a candidate for the Central Ward for the current Fremantle Council election.
Good. If elected, you'll use your skills in law, finance and management, work towards strengthening the corporate governance, general greater transparency in council dealings and better financial management. You'll also be a strong advocate for the residents of Central Ward, it says here.
Yes, that's right. I think every board and a council is like a board. You need a range of skills, and I think my particular skills will complement other councillors and hopefully achieve some better outcomes for Fremantle. And
combination of accounting and law. Yeah, it's pretty good, hey?
Yeah, I was. My father was in business, and he always wanted his sons. And my late brother was also a lawyer to do law. And but I found that I was interested in the business side, so accounting sort of was a bit of a fit because then you can. It's a good range then to have and be able to advise people when you know both the business side and the accounting side and the law side.
So that's what drove you. Your dad, first of all, that's what drove you to become a lawyer. Yeah,
I think so. Back in my time, which is a while ago, if you went to university, your parents wanted you to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, and quickly worked out I couldn't stand the sight of blood. We lived down in Albany and used to go to the whaling station, so I figured, medicine probably wasn't my field, so law was more appropriate.
Brought you to Perth. Was it studying of law and then you stayed, or what?
No, when my brother was 12 and I was 10, and I had a younger sister was 8, and my father thought we'd get a better education up in Perth.
And where was that better education?
Well, we went to Mount Lawley High School.
Okay.
I went to Yokine School and then Carmel School and then to Mount Lawley High School, and my brother went there as well. And
okay. So what was it that inspired you to stand for council?
I stood 2 years ago. I was approached by a number of people who weren't happy with what they saw at council in terms of financial management and decisions that were being made. And they approached me knowing that I was a lawyer and my background, and thought that I could add value. So I did stand 2 years ago. I lost, but I did pretty well in South Ward. Good. And again, I thought that would probably be it, but again, I was approached, and I thought, I'm prepared to give it another chance. I'm passionate about Fremantle, and
so people will know you now a bit more.
I think so. More. People would have known us a bit, and obviously because I've got my legal practice in Fremantle, a lot of people know me through that. So I think, and I'm giving it another go anyway. I think it's a good part of democracy that you have candidates and a few candidates, and in my ward, there's only myself and the sitting councillor. So I think it's good that I'm at least there to put a contest.
So there's only two of you contesting?
In the Central Ward, myself and, as I said, the sitting councillor. So
okay.
I just think that we need some fresh ideas and fresh people on council. You tend to get a lot of councillors that have been there a long time, And as I said, I'm sure they've added value to council, but I think sometimes it's time to make a change.
Yeah. And your skills will be incredibly useful.
Yeah,
on
I'm hoping so.
And I've been to a couple of the town of Cambridge meetings, and it's like, oh gosh, there's so much protocol here. Obviously, you've been on so many other boards, so it would not be daunting at all for you to be on something like this.
No, I mean, it's still got to be something different. So, there's a bit of intrepidation, and I'm sure there'll be a bit of anxiety if I do get elected, till I get to know, as you say, the protocols and the people on council.
Yeah.
I know a couple of the councillors, but I don't know many. So you've got to work with the existing councillors as well. So,
well, it's anything new, and I think it's how we grow when we overcome those little or big things, whatever those big hurdles are that we have to go through.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't think it's necessarily going to be fun or necessarily rewarding. I mean, you do get paid, but it's not like I'm not doing it for the pay or anything. I'm doing it because I think I can provide, skills and benefits, and as I said, help the ratepayers.
So, tell me about the. There's been stuff up with the paperwork or something for the voting.
It's terrible. What happened is, for some reason, the Electoral Commission ended up posting out the ballot papers for Central Ward to Coastal Ward, which is Marija, who's you're going to speak to shortly, hers, and in my ward, we got the Coastal Ward ballot papers. So the first ballot paper I got, I couldn't even vote for myself because I wasn't on it. There was apparently 12,000 voters affected. So,
oh my goodness.
So the Electoral Commission have now sent out the new ballot papers with an explanation, but I think it's going to cause a lot of confusion. So I've already had people calling us and saying, we've got two sets, what do we do? Even though there is some wordings there, people tend to just make a mess. They open up the things and they don't work out which is which. So it's not good.
I'm up in town of Cambridge, as I was saying, and I applied because we've actually gone non-postal.
Oh, okay.
Which we actually had a council meeting, and all the council people that were there said, no, we don't want that, but they went ahead anyway and said, no, we're not going to do postal voting unless you request it. So it's great that you've got the accounting skills and the law skills, and just see, you've been to a few council meetings, you see how they run? Yeah, I
have been to some council meetings both there, and I also been to some City of Stirling ones a while back.
Okay.
So, I have seen how they run, and as I said, I've had feedback. I know a couple of people on council, but also feedback from others that do go quite regularly and push points, and as I said, a lot of them aren't happy with some of the answers they're getting, so that's why they wanted somebody like myself to stand.
And have you had any time to do anything like door knocking, or do you do anything like that?
I've been doing door knocking. I've had 3 candidate meetings. So there's the White Gum Valley precinct. So they had a meeting with myself and the other candidate. You could do a bit of a spiel about yourself and then answer questions. We then had one organised by the Fremantle Society at the Australia Hotel, which there were 4 candidates. And then last Tuesday there was a pub at the Politics at the local hotel where all the candidates were there and again could speak for a couple of minutes and then field questions. So there's been quite a bit of that. I'm getting a lot of emails and phone calls, people asking questions or confused and wanting to know, why have they got this ballot paper. So, there's a lot of work involved, yes.
Gosh, well, I'm going to play some music and then we might get Marija in sometime soon. And I'm in the studio here with Stephen Pynt. And we've been talking. Stephen is a candidate for Central Ward for Fremantle. Stephen, you were talking about some of the issues. Well, tell me about some of the issues that voters have been, or constituent people have been talking to you about, what they're interested in, what they really want.
There's a lot of local issues like, safety, so safety for children with people speeding through the streets, safety for everybody with lack of lighting, and cleanliness is an issue, particularly in the city of Fremantle itself. So then people have, like at White Gum Valley, you got what they call Boo Park, where they want some more support from council to further develop that in a good way. And then there's the bigger issues like the finances, and the fact that rates went up 9%. We've got a council chambers which cost over 60 million. People are saying, why are we paying so much for the services when their services are cut? Marija will talk to more about that, but things like the cat bus. So there's a diverse range of issues, but there's the very localised ones, there's the ones for the city of Fremantle, and there's the bigger picture of Fremantle and its financial viability and ability to provide more services.
My next guest, who's also in the studio, we'll have both of them in for a short time here. She grew up in South Fremantle and White Gum Valley, and the daughter of Croatian immigrants who taught her the values of family and community as the virtues of a good life. And she's raised 4 beautiful children, I love to hear that, and cherished their Freo lifestyle together. She learnt traditional homesteading from her parents, and her yard is full of yum. Vegetables, herbs, fruit trees, ducks, chickens, bees and worm farms. She's currently collaborating with Daisy Field Organics to share her skills and knowledge about edible gardens, gardening, herbs and food preservation. Her background's in education, human resources, and she's working with the Jundalaya as a trusted advisor and business mentor for that. Now, you give me another little tongue twister, Thalinya traditional owners. She's honoured to have served the City of Fremantle, Finance, Policy and Operations and Legislative Committee, and previously been on the Audit Risk Committee. So, welcome to the studio, Marija Vuycic. Did I get that right?
You got that right. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
I mean, if you were my mum or my dad, it'll be Vuycic.
Vuycic.
Yeah, but you know what?
I'm happy to say that. Vuycic. It's like if you were French, I would speak with a French accent. Vuycic.
Vuycic always does the job too.
Vuycic.
Yeah, thank you.
How long have you been on the council?
I have just completing my first term, so 4 years.
4 years, okay. And so after every 4 years you have to re-nominate, is that what happens?
That's right, yeah.
And so which ward again are you?
South Ward.
South Ward,
yes.
Okay. How many wards are there?
Well, now the new ward will be Coastal Ward, which is amalgamation of probably 50% South Ward and the city.
Okay, so the boundaries have changed?
Yes.
Who changes the boundaries?
It was a state government initiative.
Okay, because I think they're changing it for Town of Cambridge as well. I know things are going to change up there for state as well.
I believe so, but I think for, say, the city of Coburn, I don't think anything's going to change because I think there's area 1, 2 and 3 in terms of size of the local government areas, and so Fremantle was one of the smaller ones. So we had 13 councillors for a city of 33,000 people. So,
and what's the normal? Like what are the other councils?
Well, if you have a look at, say, City of Coburn, they've got about 10 for about 120,000.
So are they trying to drop the numbers that you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We needed to it was either we as a city come to grips with it and fall within the guidelines, the new guidelines, in terms of how many councillors, a certain number of residents in a local government.
Right.
Either we do it or they'll do it for us. And of course, it makes common sense. You look at it yourself and you know there's change on the state level and you comply with it. So we're going to be reduced. We're carrying 2 extra councillors now. So we're reducing this election from 13 to 11. And then in 2025, at the next 2-year cycle election, we will drop to 9, which is 4 wards, 2 councillors per ward, plus a mayor.
Things are changing, aren't they?
They are. That's quite significant for Fremantle.
It is. But with them bringing in 400,000 more people to Western Australia, won't those numbers just go up again? And then what will they do?
Well, if they come to Fremantle, I don't know where they're going to live.
Well, I know in City Beach they're allowing big high-rises to go up next to me. Not happy about that. I wonder, so is there a height restriction in Fremantle?
There is. There's height restrictions. I think it's 4 levels. We're looking at 6.
That's everywhere? That's in every ward, even going as far as...
No, this is in the city.
In the city itself,
area, which I think makes sense that we need to have some restrictions there. We've got a beautiful heritage city and it needs to really reflect our heritage in terms of future development. But I think the heart of Beaconsfield is an area where there's going to be 6 stories. And there's going to be a combination of social housing and public enterprise or private enterprise. Right. But I think, even so, it's perhaps good to get more people in because that obviously that creates more demand in the economy. However, buildings take time. You can't. You're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 years. So what are you going to do in between time? It puts huge pressure on existing real estate. And it pushes people that are on the edge. I've come across so many people that have lost their homes because they can't afford the rent anymore and they're living out of cars. Yeah. They're living in caravan parks. They're couch surfing at, mum and dad's place or living in their garage.
Where is there a solution to, is there another way of housing for everything? is there more, rather than how we house people now, people choose to live in a house or wherever. Is there something else? I mean, that we haven't thought of, that we could house all these people and they'd be happy, like a lot of single people?
Look, I think the housing solutions are time immemorial in terms of solutions. However, I think you need to have a look at how we live culturally and how sustainably we live and combine the two together, because putting up a block of one bedroom, and I've heard this said time and time again, all we need is a small home or a one bedroom place and let's build a whole series of them. Well, we did that in the 50s and 60s, and 60s in particular right around the world, and it just produces a certain type of problem too, because unless people are going to have local employment, unless they're going to have things to do in their leisure time and so forth, and community amenities and services, then, there's going to be a gap, and maybe we won't like the outcome of that socially. So it's a complex problem, but it's been around for a long time. And I do think we need to do better targeting the many layers of that problem, rather than saying, well, let's just have tiny houses and we just can fit more and that'll do the trick. I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. What about communal living? That's a challenge as well, isn't it? Like the old communes they had back in the 60s.
It worked at Tel Aviv, doesn't it? Doesn't it work in...
Oh, well, Israel. Yeah, Israel got the kibbutz. And,
kibbutzes.
The kibbutz
works pretty well.
Yeah, and children get looked after by other people too, not just the parents. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, growing up as an ethnic kid in Fremantle, let me tell you, I had quite a few mums and dads used to slap me around when I got out of line, and they weren't my biological mum and dad, I can tell you. They were the community. If they saw you in Fremantle,
like I know, I went where I grew up. There was a lot of older women there, and they were spinsters, and they would ring. I went to Loretto Convent, and they would ring the nuns and tell them, because we all looked alike, all the Baker girls, a whole lot of us. Oh my God, and they would say she was seen in the street without her gloves on, without a hat on, or something like this. Yeah, but again, they would look out for you.
Absolutely.
If you needed looking out
Absolutely.
for you.
I can remember the first daring thing I did as a 16-year-old, and walking down Ray Avenue with bell-bottom pants. And mind you, I didn't leave home with them. I actually got dressed at a friend's place, and I thought I'd do my stuff down at Fremantle and meet my girlfriends. And I saw a couple of guys on the corner of South Terrace, and it was used to be called the Newmarket Hotel, and I thought, they're my dad's friends, I'm dead. and by the time I got home, the word, I don't know how they got there, but my dad was waiting for me.
Stephen, did you have any experiences like that growing up? Or were you a good boy?
I grew up in Albany. I think it was different back then. It was a pretty laid back, but we used to all get on the bus to go to the primary school. I went to the Albany Infant School, which is now a Dome Cafe, which is a bit disappointing. But I remember one thing that sticks in my mind when we talk about schools is my mother, she was from London, and she said one thing she couldn't get her head around, and she said this even when she was getting dementia, was that she saw kids going to school in Perth bare feet. And for somebody come from England, that was just never.
That would be state schools.
And, but I think we did that, and we probably, whether it was hot or cold or anything in between, just go bare feet to school.
I can imagine that in country towns and in Broome, definitely, places like that. I didn't realise that happened in the city as well.
Well, that was back in, she came out in the 50s, so
Yeah.
Maybe a bit more late back then, but
some of us were alive in the 50s. So, Marija, you've got in your second term, this is what you're planning to do. Yeah, do you want to tell us what it is?
Well, look, I've got to say that I don't come from a government background. I'm very much a private enterprise type of person, and I've done, I was initially a school teacher, and then I went into human resources and industrial relations in major mining project, mining and construction. So it was around people a lot, and managing budgets and having to be accountable. So when I first got in, it was really the first 12 months is always a whirlwind. really difficult. And I don't think, I think it could be said for anybody that comes in. And certainly, Steve, when you get in, your first 12 months is a whirlwind.
You just sit there and observe and watch what's going
absolutely,
on?
Absolutely. I drew a lot from other councillors. I watched how they performed. Yep. I asked questions. You also have some people outside in the community who are always there with some wisdom around it, or also directing you, you're not strong enough here and you're too strong over here. But I think all of that's part of your learning curve, that first 12 months. And for me, that first 12 months was around the financials.
Okay.
And it was around the first audit that I looked at, results. And it was, I asked my first question. I asked my first question about how did we do in the first financial year, and that was when I was on the Audit and Risk Committee.
You asked what?
How did we do? And they said, oh, yeah, we're fine. And then I read the report and I said, how did we make $8.5 million operating loss? And I went, really? I said, well, it's here. It's written here. And everybody was stunned on the committee. And I said,
yeah, go on.
And I said, well, it took me a whole weekend to pull this apart, for me to get my head around $8.5 million operating loss. How did we get there? And there wasn't an adequate explanation until the next day when the CEO said, look, council use is quite correct. We did have that, and there were some explanations around it. And that's when I really thought, maybe finances is something I will look at a lot more closer.
Okay. And
that's what I've done for the last 3 years.
So were there any councillors on there who were accountants at the time, or who?
No, but they're all pretty stunned when I said, we've made an 8.5 operating loss.
So, Stephen, sounds like they need your skills there as an accountant and a lawyer.
Yeah, look, I think it always helps. I mean, obviously you've got the staff there who are meant to, assist, but I don't think anything beats having somebody on the council that
holding them accountable.
And Maria's done a fantastic job of being able to try and unpack the accounts, but I think I can add value there for sure.
Wow.
I think it's also asking the right questions. I'm not an accountant by background. I don't know how many times my mother always used to say, Maria, you were born asking questions. Stop it. But, and then it's more from curiosity aspect and wanting to learn how do we do this and how did we get to this point. Yeah. And I've always been a person about continuous improvement. So every time I stuff up on council, I always take responsibility in the sense of saying, well, I learned something from that rather than getting aggro and deflecting. I always say, well, thank you very much. I've learned something, and next time that's what I do.
So how would you go about getting community food forests and edible garden projects going? I'm really behind that. I would love to see a lot more of that.
Well, look, you notice this time of year we've got the everlasting daisies around and they're randomly spread right throughout Fremantle, and sometimes I get ratepayers to ring me and say, oh, council's done a wonderful job on Ray Avenue, particularly that roundabout's got some beautiful colourful show. And I say, no, that's just a group of community people. I don't even know who they are. They go out and they do wild planting. And I think there's plenty of little nooks and crannies that's vacant land, and nature is such that if it's got a landscape, it will put something there. Now, we often call that weeds, so you can plant all sorts of seeds there. Because I am an organic gardener, I've often thought that perhaps Whitegum Valley still got some nice large blocks, but you don't need a lot to grow an edible garden. So I'm thinking having a website up, and you could be 2 streets away and you could be growing string beans and someone else is growing broad beans, and you put them in touch with each other. That's an edible garden, and that's contributing a hell of a lot.
Yeah. And what about verges?
Look, verges are also good, but what a lot of people don't understand is when they go into gardening is it's a lot of work. So having door knocked South Fremantle, I don't know, every street, I don't know how many times, and now going into the city, you see a lot of gardens that are neglected with caterpillars, and you look at it and you go, well, that was a waste of water.
Okay.
So I do think we need to encourage people, and I think it comes back to also education. I'm affiliated with Daisy Organics at Penny Lane music shop area. Yep. And we've been holding sometimes fortnightly, sometimes monthly, where we have lifestyle type of workshops, and we've done things on organic garlic honey, and we have people who sign up for those courses. We also have one, Mark Woodcock's also done beekeeping, but that's all educational. I'm going to do one shortly on fermenting vegetables. Don't throw them away. Here's how you can ferment them and keep them for 6 months. Yeah. So I do think getting the community together, sharing that knowledge, and I think I've got to a stage of my life where I take for granted that I can live off the land, and I literally can, but a lot of people can't, and a lot of our younger generations need to have confidence in that simple essentials that we take for granted of a certain generation. Yeah, well, I've started organic gardening a couple of years ago, and I know what I can grow, what I'm good at growing, and other things is like, they just keep dying on me. I won't do that. Well, I'll just go with the ones that I know that I can grow really well, and then just introduce a new one, maybe every year, instead of trying to grow 10 things at once and 8 of them don't work. It's like, oh, no, that's not 8 actually, but, you know. But could you imagine if you had a website where you grow what you really like to grow? And I'm a big believer, grow what you like to grow because you're likely to take care of it. Yeah. And then 2 streets away, someone is growing something else that they love and you exchange it.
Yeah, well, we exchange things like I've got a lima tree, so I exchange that with other people with the grapefruit tree or with something else, an orange tree and things. But, there's a lot more that we could do with that on lots of councils. Yeah. Stephen, you said you might have to leave shortly.
Yes, I'll have to get going in about 5 minutes.
So...
Can I just say on that subject of edible gardens, Samson Park, I just think it's a beautiful piece of land. Yeah. It's a beautiful natural park. It's got so much there, but we haven't looked after it very well. Can you imagine if we pumped some money into that? And if we had our cat bus still going, we could make that into a major tourist attraction with, maybe a tea house in there. So the concept of edible garden is only as short as your imagination can be. But I think Samson Park is such an underrated and underutilised piece of park.
Yeah, so much we can do. Stephen, do you grow your own veggies?
Well, we've got a lime. My wife does. I'm not that good at that. But we have a lime tree which produces so many limes, and a mandarin tree, and some herbs and that. But around the corner from me in Moran Court, there's a community garden on one of the verges.
You've also got olive trees, haven't you?
We've got olive trees, and then there's also a community group in Livingston Street called the Beaky Bunch, or the West Beaky Bunch, and they're very good at organising community events, including going around picking the olives and pressing them and producing.
Yes, I've done that too. That's wonderful. I like doing my own olives. Yeah, it's been well, it's been lovely having you on. So Stephen, so you're a candidate for Central Ward. Stephen Pynt, there's only you and one other person.
One other existing councillor. So I hope people have looked at my flyers, and so we're out there door knocking. I've got some good helpers helping me with door knocking, and. Great. The main thing is to get everybody to vote, because it's not compulsory, but we want people to vote. Okay. And unfortunately there's been that confusion with the ballots, but let's hope that we get the numbers up.
So that's your little passing words to the listeners?
Yes, please vote. Hopefully for me, but even just vote. Anyway.
And they can. And where do they get to vote?
Well, they've got their ballot papers, so they just need to complete them, and they can post them.
Okay, so it's all been posted to them.
Or they can go in on the day, which is the 21st of October. I'm not sure if they go in before then.
21st of October.
No. You can go in before then if you're dropping off a postal vote.
Okay. Yep.
But to actually vote off the roll is the 21st.
And that's the only place at the council. Council. Okay, great.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. I've got sponsors, and then we'll get back and we'll be chatting a bit longer with Marija. So thanks, Stephen, and all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.